One Wintry Night by Ruth Bell Graham, illustrated by Richard Jesse Watson. It is finished. Chapter 11. Zeb sat still for a moment, staring at the Christmas tree. Then he spoke quietly. "Ma'am, what I don't get is how a baby could save a world. Can you explain that?" "Good question," the woman replied. "You've probably heard some wonderful stories about Jesus' life, the parables he told and the miracles he performed. But it's what happened at the end of his life that matters most. Let's pick up the story of Aaron and Anna after they had grown up. It's Passover time in Jerusalem." "The same Passover they did in Egypt?" Zeb asked. "Yes," the woman replied. "They were celebrating how God had delivered them from Egypt. But this Passover was the most important of all, as you'll soon see." Having heard about Jesus all their lives, Aaron and Anna could not believe the news of his arrest. They, like many others, believed Jesus would rescue them from the Romans. Now Jesus was sentenced to die. On that day, crowds began gathering on the hill called the Place of the Skull. Aaron studied the people. The hardened soldiers, used to suffering and death, sat and gambled. The arrogant centurion in charge stood near them, efficient, unfeeling. The mocking scribes and Pharisees were there too. But most of the people were just curious onlookers who had come to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover. Anna spotted a small group off to one side near the center cross. Something about one of the women drew her attention. The woman looked up, and the sun shone straight on her face. Anna tugged Aaron's sleeve. The woman was older now, but there was no mistaking even at this distance. She was the mother they had seen in the cave. How long they stood there, Aaron never knew. He felt in some way that he himself was dying. Everything was growing darker, till it was black as midnight. The earth began to shake, and Aaron gripped Anna's arm. After a while, the shaking stopped, but the darkness lingered for 3 long hours. The scoffers stopped scoffing, and the crowds grew quiet. And in that awful stillness, a single loud cry arose. My God, why have you forsaken me?" No answer, only silence. Then the same voice exclaiming, "It is finished." The figure on the cross slumped. Aaron drew in his breath as Anna sobbed. But somehow they couldn't bear to leave. In the strangely dim light, a well-dressed man came with some soldiers to take Jesus' body down from the cross. They put him in a tomb in a nearby garden and rolled a huge stone across the entrance. Wordlessly, Aaron and Anna made their way home. The boy sat gazing thoughtfully into the fireplace. That just naturally ain't right. Sounds like he didn't rescue no one, just up and died. "I know it sounds that way," the woman said, "and the following day must have been one of the saddest in history. All of Jesus' followers hid for fear of the Jewish leaders. His friends had believed Jesus was the one to free them from the Romans, and now they were frightened and disappointed. But the next morning, something happened. Before dawn, a great earthquake shook the land. The angel of the Lord descended like lightning, his clothes white as snow. A Ignoring the Roman guards, he tossed back the huge stone and calmly sat on it. The soldiers shook with terror and fell like dead men. Two of the women who had followed Jesus came at dawn and found the tomb empty. They clutched each other in fear. "Don't be afraid," the angel said. "Jesus has risen. Now go and tell all his disciples." Jesus showed himself to all his disciples and friends, like Aaron and Anna, over the next few weeks. In the garden, on the road to Emmaus, in the upper room where they had been hiding, and beside the Sea of Galilee. Sitting down with them all, he told them not to blame the Jewish leaders, the Romans, or anyone else for his crucifixion. He explained how ever since the Garden of Eden, God had tried to tell people he was going to send them a Savior. And Jesus was that Savior. God did not send him to deliver them from the unjust rulers, from illness or unpleasant situations. He was born to die for the sins of mankind. Those who were sorry for their sins, even the worst of people, could be forgiven. And they once more would know the joy of companionship with God, lost so long ago in Eden. Through his death and resurrection, the baby born that night in Bethlehem had become Lord of all. This is the real meaning of Christmas, the joy and glory of it. It was still dark when Zeb awoke the next morning. He wasn't even sure he'd been asleep because his head was so full of all he had heard that wintry night. He lay thinking for a long time. Climbing carefully down the steps from the high bed, he hopped over to the window and pulled back the curtain. One bright star was twinkling in the sky. It was dawn. This was the conclusion of One Wintry Night, Chapter 11. If you have enjoyed this book and would like to hear more, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.